It is week 14 in the Premier League. We're 40% of the way through the season. And what I think is pretty mad is there's 6 points separating 13th or 14th all the way to second. There's like 6 or 7 points separating Everton all the way over to Manchester City. It's kind of nuts how close it is from second to about 14th. Like anyone that just gets like 3 wins in a row could be in a Champions League spot right now. It's like Newcastle might be in 13th, but if they win their next 2 games, they could be back in the top 4. Like it's actually nuts, the league right now, and it's so hard to predict, and it's so close. And we are actually 14 game weeks in, so we're getting closer to the halfway mark. And I think Arsenal are going to run away with the league, but it's really hard to predict how things will go. Will teams drop off? Bournemouth have fallen off quite a lot lately. Could managers be sacked? Thomas Frank had a very good start, but recent performances from Tottenham have been poor, particularly their home record, and it's been quite negative. Newcastle is who Tottenham have next, and we know what Newcastle's record is like versus Tottenham. Very good. We're going to talk about the Arsenal game. Gabriel and Saliba out. Could they drop points to Brentford? They have a very good attack with Igor Thiago. We're going to talk about all of my Premier League predictions. So that was a very long intro. Let's get into the first game of the weekend, which is Manchester City Fulham. So, Fulham are a very solid side, but they haven't been great this season. I know they beat Tottenham, but Tottenham haven't been great. Wolves almost beat Tottenham, and Wolves haven't won a game yet. I think City will win. I think City will win because they win when they need to win. I don't think they've looked great lately. They've lost 2 games in a row. They just beat Leeds. They were poor versus Leeds. But I think City have the quality to win. They'll want to put pressure on Arsenal and Chelsea. So I've gone with a 2-0 Manchester City win. I know it's away to Fulham, but I think the City, unfortunately, will win that game. Going into the next game is Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth have absolutely fallen off a cliff after what was a good start to the season. But I found this with Bournemouth. They had a really good period last season, then a really bad period, then a good period. If you look at Bournemouth's sort of results, it started well in the league for them. I know they lost 4-2 to Liverpool, but it was a decent performance. They beat Wolves 1-0. They then beat Tottenham 1-0. They beat Brighton 2-1. 0-0 versus Newcastle was a solid result. 3-1 against Fulham. And then 2-0 against Forest. But then they lost 3-1 to City, 4-0 to Villa, 2-2 at West Ham when they were 2-0 up. And then they were 2-0 up versus Sunderland and lost 3-2. They actually haven't won one of their last 4 games. Absolutely bottled the Sunderland game. Now they're playing Everton. Everton have just been battered by Newcastle, who tore them apart. Everton do not have a good record away from home. So I have gone with a 2-1 Bournemouth win. I've gone with Bournemouth to get back to winning ways. I think Njai or Kieran Dewsbury is going to get on the score sheet for Everton, but I think Semenyo is going to get some returns. So I've gone with a Bournemouth win. This is the big game. This is the game I'm most excited for. Newcastle versus Tottenham. And I tell you what, Newcastle have a good record versus Tottenham, and Tottenham haven't been very good in the big games this season. Didn't have a sniff versus Chelsea, didn't have a sniff versus Arsenal. Newcastle defensively have a pretty good record this season, but if you look at the head-to-heads, when you look at Newcastle versus Tottenham in the past, and you look at Newcastle's record versus Tottenham, I remember Newcastle won 6-1 once. I'm pretty sure they got 5 goals in like the opening 20 minutes. I do remember watching Expression's reaction to that match. And then they beat Tottenham last year 2-1 at home. And then they beat Tottenham last year 4-0 at home last season, 2 seasons ago. So they have a very good record against Tottenham. And I think pressure's on Thomas Frank. I don't think he should be sacked. I think Tottenham need to give managers time, and I think they need to stop going through the cycle of sacking managers. I don't think they've got the best squad in the world. But I do think pressure's on Thomas Frank, and I think that Newcastle are going to win 3-1, and I think there's going to be some rumours of Thomas Frank sacking. I don't think they will sack him if he loses to Newcastle, but I think Thomas Frank could be at risk. The thing is, I think he needs time. But he also needs to buy time. If he's misprofiling Bergvall and using him as a 10 when he's Tottenham's best number 8, and ignoring some of the youthful good players and playing the same underperformance, there's going to be pressure on him. I think Newcastle are going to beat Tottenham, and I think Thomas Frank might be in some uncomfortable conversations. Villa, Brighton. Villa have been on a run lately. Aston Villa have been phenomenal, but is it sustainable? Because they're scoring a lot of screamers a lot of out of the box goals, there is that sort of question of, oh, is it sustainable? This, that, la, la, la. But they're just really good. They've won 5 games in a row. They lost to Liverpool, but they beat City just before they lost to Liverpool. They beat Tottenham earlier in the season as well. They've beaten Burnley. They're on a really good run, Villa. But Brighton are a good side. Brighton always score goals. And I actually think that they're going to drop points to Brighton. And I've gone with 1-1. Aston Villa 1, Brighton 1. But Villa are absolutely on one at the moment. Villa are 4th in the league, 1 point behind second. And, you can never write off Unai Emery and what Unai Emery is capable of, I guess. He's always good at getting those results. Burnley Palace. Crystal Palace really struggle with the 2 games a week. You can see, they were really good in the first half versus Man United. And then they were really, really poor in that second half. And I don't know if it's because United have 1 game a week, they have 2 games a week, they're knackered. But this is Burnley, this is relegation-bound Burnley. We all knew they were going to get relegated. They've done a lot more than the promoted sides of last season. They've put up fight. They might stay up, but they lost 3-2 to West Ham, 2-0 to Chelsea, 3-1 to Brentford, 2-0 to Arsenal. They're off the back of 4 losses in a row. They did have back-to-back wins versus Leeds and Wolves, but they are relegation rivals. And they got battered by City, beaten by Villa. They've not. I don't think Burnley have been awful when you look at the last year's promoted sides, but I think they are destined to go down. I think Crystal Palace have one of the best defensive records in the league. So for that reason, I'm going to go 1-0 Palace. I think Mateta is going to get a goal and nick something there. Going into Wolves and Nottingham Forest, I really want Rob Edwards to pick up a win for Wolves. My stepdad is a Wolves fan, and they've got 2 points all season, not a single win, minus 21 goal difference, just 2 draws. The draws came to Tottenham and someone else. It'd be nice for them to pick up a first win, but Forest have been a lot better. Elliot Anderson has been an absolute machine. Even though Forest were not great in their last game, Elliot Anderson was an absolute machine versus Brighton. I mean, every single game he's phenomenal. We saw Forest beat Liverpool 3-0. We know what Forest can do when they're on it. But I'm hoping Wolves will get a point. I feel like Wolves are improving. They gave Villa a good game, particularly in the first half they were good. So I've actually gone with Wolves 1, Forest 1. Continuing on into Arsenal, Brentford. Now, Nkapia and Mascara are very good backups, but they're not Saliba and Gabriel. I don't think you're really going to find anyone that can step in for Saliba and Gabriel and not know it's a drop-off. They are the best centre-back partnership in the world. Gabriel was out. Saliba's picked up a knot. Saliba could be back, but we don't know for sure. And I have to say, Igor Thiago, Brentford, they've been scoring the goals. They've been doing very well lately, Brentford. They've been surprising me because everyone thought Thomas Frank gone, Mbumo gone, Vissa gone. Everyone was like, Brentford relegated, la, 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 la. And obviously Brentford haven't been relegated. They've been doing quite well. But I think Arsenal will win 2-1. I think this is going to be a narrow game. I think this is going to be a difficult game for Arsenal. I think this is one of those games where it could be a 1-1. I think, unpopular opinion, I think Arsenal could drop points in this game, and I hope they do. Because you know what? If Arsenal can drop points in this game and Chelsea can beat Leeds, then that would mean that Chelsea would go on to 27 points and Arsenal would be on 31. And there's a little bit more competition in that title race. I was really hoping Chelsea would win yesterday, just because I don't like there to be any more than really 4 points, 3-4 points between teams. I think if Arsenal get a 9-point lead, you're like, oh, they're going to run away with it. Continuing on into Leeds, Chelsea, I do think Chelsea will win this game. The thing about Chelsea is they could beat Barcelona and absolutely outplay Barcelona. They could almost beat Arsenal and outplay Arsenal despite having 10 men and not having their 2 most key players in Caicedo and Palmer on the pitch. They can batter PSG 3-0, but then they can go to Leeds and lose. That is the thing about Chelsea. They're phenomenal when they're on it, but they can go to Leeds and lose. But I think they're going to beat Leeds 3-1. I know they haven't got Caicedo, but Santos is going to come in. Santos is mint. I think defensively they've looked better. I think Rob Sanchez has improved a lot. They've got really good wing options. I think Neto's having an underrated season. I think Esteval, Garnacho, Gittins all bring something unique. I thought João Pedro looked back to his best in the last game. I think Chelsea will win 3-1. Liverpool, Sunderland. Liverpool should have got to win this game. They lost loads of games and they won their last game, but that win versus West Ham, it can't just be a one-off win. They've got to build 3-4 wins in a row. Sunderland, very difficult team to beat. Arsenal dropped points to them. Man United did beat them 2-0, and that was our best performance of the season. I will say that. But I actually fancy Liverpool. I think a bit of confidence from the last win, bit of momentum. Salah's realised, okay, I've got to step up. I'm not completely undroppable. Joe Gomez gave them a bit more defensive stability at right back. I think, Sunderland are a good side, but I think Liverpool will be up for it. And I think Liverpool are going to get back to winning ways and win 2-1. But we'll have to see. I think if they don't win today or this week, I think Slot will be under pressure because there is a part of me that thinks the dressing room isn't playing for Slot. And I said that after your loss to PSV. But then I think versus West Ham, you looked like you were playing for Slot. This will be a test. Was West Ham a one-off? And last but not least, Manchester United, West Ham. West Ham always treat Man United as their cup final. I swear they will lose to Liverpool. They will let Isak score and they're going to go to Old Trafford and treat it as a cup final. Man United have a good home record. West Ham aren't particularly good. We are better than West Ham. Cunha should be back for the game as well. Part of me thinks this is going to be a 1-1 and I'm going to be doing a big rant after the match. But I'm going to back my team to win 2-0 and Boomo, get me the FPL points. Get it.